Good afternoon. Welcome back to Passionate World Talk Radio Network, a wholly owned subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC, Educate, Enlighten, and Entertain. Today is the third episode of Money in Politics. And today, with your host, Lillian Cauldwell, we're going to discuss about this money being put and used in elections, not just for presidential elections, but all federal elections. Yes, I'm going to add some of my own opinions to it to call attention to what's really going on, and also to let you know that our call to action involves you, the audience. So either text us at 484-364-1032 or email us as pwrnetworkllc@gmail.com and let us know what you think about the series, what you think about any of the episodes that I am providing you with information on, and what you would like to hear on Lest We Forget Historical, because it's very important for us to stop that which has been going on before. Just because it hasn't been solved yet doesn't mean it can't be solved now. So join me and let me know how you feel about these episodes and what you would like to hear and what you would like me to explore, or who you would like me to get on the program to discuss how they feel or what their opinions are. So starting it off, yes, I'm going to be looking at notes because I'll be taking facts, figures, and stats and names. And unfortunately, I am terrible on all three of them. So I'm going to be referring to my notes. Please understand. In the 2016 campaign for Wisconsin's first congressional district, House Speaker Paul Ryan used $13 million to win a race against his opponent, who only spent $16,000. And that same year, 129 members of Congress spent thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars, while their opponents spent little or no money at all. Why? Because their opponents were already defeated before they put themselves out there to be elected. In other words, they didn't bother spending the money because they already talked themselves or were convinced or had their peers convince them that they wouldn't win. So why bother? So it doesn't really change the fact at all to win elections. Let's face it, we've been doing it since 1778, when George Washington served rum punch, and ginger cookies to his constituents to make sure he got voted into office. This is important stuff. In 2017, Bonica, Bonica, published a study that found, unlike the general election, early fundraising strongly predicted who would win primary races. And that matches up with other research that has been taken, suggesting that advertising has a serious effect on how people vote if the candidate buying the ads is not already well known, and if the election at hand is less predetermined along partisan lines. So every time you see those commercials, either Biden or Trump, just remember each is going to try to outspend the other on getting their particular commercials out to you. And of course, the common quote, if you hear something 7 times, by the 8th time, you have it down pat. Listen, when I listen to the commercials for that brain thing or whatever, and they show 2 ladies trying to remember a name, I already know the name because I've heard it so many times that I have it down in my brain department. So I don't understand why you cannot make that relative if you hear to all the commercials that Trump and Biden will be putting out, and maybe another candidate, JFK Jr., who will be putting out, that by the time the election comes, you'll know everything because you got most of your information from the ads. So ads are important. Darrell West, Vice President and Director of Governance Studies at the Brookings Institution, says that advertising is useful for making voters aware that a candidate or an issue exists at all. Really? I thought there are other reasons why they have commercials. Listen, if they were allowed at the Super Bowl, I'm pretty sure for midterm elections, whoever's trying to run for president 2 years from that midterm would start running commercials as well. It's a good way of getting the word out about themselves. A verbal selfie instead of a video. Think of it that way. He also says that once you have people listening in and paying attention to what you have on those commercials, and you're willing to spend a large amount of money, you will get a large return. Another example where money might come in handy and is determined to matter is determining who is capable of running for elective office to start with. Ongoing research from Alexander Fournières, that's Fourniais, professor of public policy at the University of Chicago, suggests that as it becomes normal for campaigns to spend higher and higher amounts, fewer people will run, and more of those who do are independently wealthy. So what is that telling you? This is supposed to be the land of the free, home of the brave, but only the wealthy are allowed to win. And if you're an Abraham Lincoln or you're somebody else from a middle class, the chances that you'll have the opportunity at age 35 or over to run for president is no longer available to you because you are not a wealthy camper. I hate to say it, but the United States is broken up into social economic levels, and everybody pretty much knows what level they belong to. And if you belong to the wrong level, you're not going to get anywhere. So what are you going to do? Charge MasterCard to run a political campaign? Is that even legal? I don't know. The other thing you have to understand, the arms race of unnecessary camp spending can help to enshrine power among the well-known and privileged. Well, we're already doing that between Biden and Trump, right? Unless you're really paying attention to all those ads those gentlemen are throwing out there. West wrote, and I quote, "That may be the business effect of money in politics." Okay, he compares it to a campaign is like a dinner party, and fundraising is the plates and silverware. You may work hard, you may get a lot of other things right, but if everyone is eating a 4-star lasagna off the table with their hands, the party would be a failure. And remember more for what it didn't have than what it did. However, if everybody's paying attention and using their manners, well, then it's a shoo-in. Overall, advertising helps. It's a major expense for campaigns, says Travis Ridout, professor of government and public policy at Washington State University. In 2012 and 2014, the average Senate campaign spent 43% of its budget on ads, and the average House campaign spent 33%. Presidential races spend an even bigger chunk of their budgets on advertising. In 2012, for example, ads made up more than 70% of President Obama's campaign expense and 55% of Mitt Romney's. Now, it doesn't always follow that people are going to win because they're spending a lot of money. But in the long run, if you have enough really good political advertising out there, you will do a lot better than if you do not. In fact, during Rick Perry's 2006 re-election campaign for Texas governor, a team of researchers convinced Perry's campaign to run ads and randomly assign markets and then track the effect of those ads using surveys. And they found that advertising did produce a pro-Perry response in the markets that received the treatment. But it's like studying for a test. If you wait until the night before and cram it, You know everything for the day of the test, and then a week later, you don't remember anything that you studied for the test because the knowledge was gotten at the last minute. And that's pretty much how they compared the ads. Now, Rideout says, in addition, ads probably matter least in the races where campaigns spend the most on them, like presidential elections, because the bigger the election, the more we already know about the people running. They make the example, it's not like anyone in 2016 presidential race was confused about who Donald Trump was or Hillary Clinton. Also, partisan politics are just powerful. In 2016, about 7 in 10 voters identified as either a Democrat or a Republican, according to exit polls. 89% of Democrats voted for Clinton, and 90% of Republicans voted for Trump. In the congressional races, most voters aren't persuadable. Instead, there seems to be a shift from one party to the other, usually more about national waves than what is happening in individual districts. Mr. Banaka said, so the ad run by your would-be congressperson matters less than the overall national sense that this year is really going to swing from one party to another. However, Banaka said, money matters a great deal in elections. Don't kid yourself. It's there. It's been here since we became a nation. It's not going to go away, folks. It's just that when scientists go looking for its impacts, they tend to look in the wrong places. If you focus on general elections, your view is going to be obscured by the fact that 80 to 90% of congressional races have outcomes that are effectively predetermined by the district's partisan makeup. And the people that win those elections are still given the election. So, what is this telling you? It's telling you that if these candidates who are running for office, either nationally or federally, they're going to win. And if you have rich people, wealthy, powerful influencers donating money to you and into the ads you put out, you have a better advantage over everybody else. Fortune magazine said in 2014, they used big donors like billionaire Tom Steyer, who poured $50 million into TV ads for various candidates. And if the big donors wanted their dollars to actually affect the outcome, they should focus spending on issue referendums, small races, and long-term strategies. Now, they do suggest that if you're going to donate, the best time is early on in the primary, when out-of-the-gate boosts in fundraising can play a big casual role in deciding who makes it to the general election. However, your ads start to become less effective. If Rick Perry's study made you think it's best to advertise the week before election, it's too late. Everybody's already made up their mind. So that is something that you want to be aware of. And let's go back just a little bit. Back in 1777, Troy writes that one of the big expenses for would-be politicians was rum punch. George Washington spent a portion of his relatively modest campaign chest on liquoring up voters and handing out cookies and ginger cakes. And then in 1777, James Madison ran for a seat at the Virginia House of Delegates. And he said, the corrupting influence of spiritual liquors and other treats, inconsistent with the purity of moral and Republican principles. He did not get voted in. In 1829, when Andrew Jackson became president of the United States, almost all white men could vote, no women, no blacks, no Indians, no immigrants. And reaching the broader populace required more spending than it once took. Jackson built a system of patronato, raising contributions from office holders to keep the political machine running smoothly. He also fought moneyed interest, stopping the recharting of the Second Bank of the United States, even as the bank spent big money to bring other politicians to his side. Jackson said, whether the people of the United States are to be governed, or whether the power and money of a great corporation are to be secretly exerted to influence their judgment and control their decisions. That's exactly what we're happening. Now, as we got into the 20th century, populist and rebel Republicans known as mugwumps, MUGWUMPS, spoke out against the corrupting influence of money on politics. And after James Garfield election in 1880, one reformer complained that the Republicans, quote, bought Indianas as you would buy so much beef. Think about that, folks. Is that relative to today's ongoing election for the 2024 presidential election? And 1896 corporations, including Standard Oil, poured money, helping Republican William McKinley defeat populist Democrat William Jennings Bryan. In the early 1900s, progressives among ranking journalists helped pass laws banning corporate campaign contribution and requiring the disclosure of campaign funds. The laws weren't particularly effective. Remind anybody of today? As the century went on, spending rose dramatically, driven partly by the mass media's growing power to influence potential voters. Since Troy's paper was published, we've seen a few more come into the fray, notably the McCain-Feingold reform law and the Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And debate on this is not going to go away. So, what are you learning from this? What you're learning from this is money will always be available for the wealthy, the influential, and the power mongers of our United States to get what they want, when they want it, how they want it. But it's up to you as citizens of the United States to decide whether or not you want them to continue business as usual. Next week, we're going to be starting another mini series on another subject. Maybe you can help me. It's, do demonstrators at the college campuses go too far? Or should we talk about scams and how they happen to even the most experienced, mature, to the youngest and inexperienced? Let me know. 484-364-1032, PWR Network LLC @gmail.com. Passionate World Talk Radio is looking for passionate people who want to become hosts on our station. Text us at 484-364-1032. Name, email, phone number, good time to call and discuss. Or send us an email, pwrnetworkllc@gmail.com. Name, phone number, email, and what's a good time to call. Please, today, internet radio needs to hear the truth from us, the peons who support all these influential, wealthy, powerful people who think they got where they got today, but they didn't get there without us, and we need to keep reminding them of that. You can listen to this program on youtube.com/Passionate World Radio, PW Talk Radio. You can also listen to it over at passionateworldtalkradio.com/blogs. Come and join us, leave a comment, get your voice heard. In today's technological world, it's based on communication and visual. Be seen, be heard. Let us know what you think, what you like, what you don't like, what you're opinionated about. Thank you all very much for listening. And remember, please tune in next Friday, 3 p.m. Lest we forget historical. Thank you and have a great weekend.